Hi, I'm Jennifer Joyce from Spark Your Being, and I recently did a video. I had many requests for my Dressing Your Truth journey, and I did that video and realized, well, that journey is about how I studied the work of one of my favorite teachers, but there are other teachers that I'd like to talk about my journey to. So, this one is about my fearless living journey. Fearless living journey. Fearless living, fearless living. And I am a certified master fearless living coach. So I'm not going to give you the whole details of the journey, but how I came to fearless living to begin with. So the year was 2004, and I had just had my daughter. It was January, it was winter, and I live here in Wisconsin, and it's very cold and dark in the winter. So I was kind of nesting, hibernating with my newborn baby daughter, and I was nursing her and flipping through the TV channels when all of a sudden I saw someone who had gashed her leg and was at a doctor's office. And I kind of like gory doctor office type things and surgeries and stuff. So I stopped on that channel and watched. Her name was PJ, and my name is Jennifer Joy. I often go by JJ. So I was like, that's interesting. And the show was a reality show called Starting Over that at that time was taking place in Chicago, which is just an hour and a half south of me. So I was like, oh, that's intriguing too. So I started watching the show Starting Over when I was on maternity leave. And the show Starting Over was about a group of women who live in a house. It was one of the first reality shows that was on the air, and it was on every single day. And so this group of women lived in a house, and it was their mission, their goal, to really start over in life. Maybe they'd had a bad trauma, or they were in a transition, or had issues of self-worth that had plagued them their entire life, and they wanted to make a change, a big change, a radical change, and start over. And they were supported in this house by a couple of life coaches and a psychologist. And at this point, I had never heard of life coach. I had no idea what one was before I started watching Starting Over. But lo and behold, Rhonda Britten was one of the life coaches on that show. So I watched it through my maternity leave, and then I caught it here and there whenever it fit in my schedule after my maternity leave. And then I remember at this time I had owned a dance studio. So it was about a year after my maternity leave. I was back at the dance studio, and my daughter was a toddler now, and I was watching the show, and I was working on the dance recital and really wishing that my daughter would just leave me alone and take a nap so that I could get my really important work done. And I stopped myself in that moment and went, wait a minute. My important work is my dance studio work, and not to minimize that, but I realized that I was placing this beautiful gift, my daughter, that I chose to have in my family life beneath my dance studio. And I was like, priorities are not right. This is not why I decided to have a child, was to hope that she was sleeping all the time so that I could get my more important work done. And I also realized that I didn't want to model that for her, because at that time in my life, even though, I actually hadn't come to life coaching yet. So I was really pushing a lot. I was a perfectionist and sort of a workaholic. So I didn't want to model any of those things for her. So I started researching life coaches, and there wasn't that much. The online community was fairly small at that time, and there really weren't many life coaches out there. So when I came across Rhonda's Fearless Living Institute and saw that she had a crew of life coaches that she'd trained, I signed up. And I actually went through a 3-month coaching arc with one of her coaches called Candace Love was her name. And by the end of that 3 months, I realized that I was living most of my life by shoulds and what I should be doing all that perfectionism, all that drive was really something that was passed down from my family and that I took on without even considering it, and was always doing what I should do instead of what I truly desired, what I was really wanting to do. And so by the end of that 3 months, I had shed a lot of the shoulds. I love that. I shed the shoulds. Maybe that's the name of a program. But I shed and shred a lot of those shoulds. And so I was living much more authentically, much more true to myself. And I'd really discovered that fear, and it's not the fear, I'm fairly fearless when it comes to emotional, or not emotional, opposite when it comes to physical things. You know, I'll dive off the diving boards and go rock climbing. But when it came to emotional fear, which is what fearless living is mostly about, I realized that I was doing a lot of people pleasing and a lot of molding myself to what people, like I said, thought I should be like, what they expected of me, and really trying to be the good girl and make everything smooth for everyone. So I did my personal coaching with Candace, and then a few months later, I know that ended in like, let's see, I started in May, June, July. So yeah, it was by about August that my life had really shifted. I bought myself the coaching package for my birthday, actually. So I'd shifted my life in just a few months, major changes. And I knew that the Fearless Living Institute was offering a workshop in February called Fearless Conversations. And I kind of wanted to try it out. I was intrigued. So I signed up, I talked to my husband, and he decided that actually he wanted to check out Fearless Conversations too. And at this point, I was having the inkling that I was interested in actually becoming a life coach, that I was interested in actually helping people shift their lives and live more authentically and live more true to who they were. So, and it's funny because even looking back on the dance studio, I loved ballet. I loved the details of ballet, but I really encouraged my students to express themselves, to really bring out who they were through dance. And so now it seemed like a natural extension to really bring out who you are in your life. So come February, it was our first time away from our baby. She was 2 at that time. And me and my husband went to Fearless Conversations, learned a lot about how to communicate with each other and have those difficult conversations and listen and reflect what we want and what we need. And it was a great experience. So it was shortly thereafter that I did sign up for their full-fledged life coach certification program. And I'll actually put a link to that if you're interested in the life coaching certification program. I'll put a link to that so you can check it out. There's this great series of videos that goes along with it, and just lets you know about what life coaching is, even if you're not interested in the coaching program. So I entered the program, and that was when this book was the one that was on the shelves. Actually, she's written several books, but this was the big main foundational work. And went through her program. It was I think it was almost a 2-year program. At that time, there was a bunch of prerequisites. And then when I was in the program, I actually took 15 months to go through it. It really was like a graduate program. And let me just show you. Oh, this is sort of my final document. My final document of all the work that I'd done. And this, I actually sent a copy to my mentor. And because we have mentors in that program. That's one of the things that's neat about this program is that just like a residency with a doctor, when we work with our study clients who are real people, we don't just coach each other. It's not peer coaching, but we work with other people outside the community teaching these fearless living concepts. And we have a mentor who listens to our calls, recordings of our calls, and then advises us on what we did well and where we need improvement. So it took me 15 months to get through that whole program. This is it. This is the work I did. Let me put that down. And then I became certified. Well, I started coaching in 2007 when I was in the program, and I became certified in 2008. So now I am a coach, have been for several years. I'm actually a master coach. So I have all the editions of her book, Fearless Living, plus her other books, so that I can use these with clients when the need comes up. So beyond that, I continued my journey in Fearless Living. I've been coaching Fearless Living concepts ever since, doing groups, doing group coaching, book groups, you name it, I've done it. Eventually up-leveled my coaching, became a master coach, and I'm also a trainer. I can train the Fearless Living workshops, and I also am a teacher for Fearless Living. So I am a mentor and teacher who helps the student life coaches as well learn to coach. So it's come around full circle. So that is my journey with Fearless Living and how I became a Fearless Living coach, and eventually a master coach and a mentor coach, and how I'm now helping not only my clients, but spreading it out with helping other student life coaches. So again, if you're interested in the program, I will put a link to that and you can check it out. And there's a really neat series of videos that just talks about what Fearless Living coaching is, if you're interested in just understanding a little more about that. So thanks a lot for listening, and I'm going to do another video on how I came to hand analysis. So that will be the next one sort of in this series. So I'll catch you at the next video.